one of the biggest things that I would have said to myself is ask the questions, like question it, think about it. It's okay to be wrong. I feel like if you ask a question and your boss says, no, that's not why we're doing it, this is why we're doing it, that's when you're going to learn the most. So like have that initiative to say, oh, why are we doing this? Or can I do it this way? Because you'll learn from that and you'll probably remember why you're doing that instead of just going, oh, well, my boss told me to put it there, so I must put it there.
G'day guys and welcome back to another episode of the Build Insite podcast. Today we are joined by an up and coming guest giving it their all in the carpentry game, currently doing an apprenticeship, completing her 4th year in high-end carpentry, refining and learning the craft of building. Clea White, welcome to the Build Insite podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Clea. It is very exciting to have you here.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. My name's Clea. Obviously, I am a 22-year-old carpentry apprentice, doing my 4th year, as Luke said. Just loving the trade for what it is.
That's awesome, Clea. We're happy to have you on board. It's I think you're our first apprentice coming on having a chat, if I'm not mistaken, Lukey. So it takes a lot of grit, determination, and honestly not caring about what other people are going to think of you to put yourself out there. So you're going through a carpentry apprenticeship, and you're paving the way like many great women doing some great things at the moment. So you're doing your apprenticeship, learning your craft, and you're also putting a bit of your own platform out there to show people your journey. So do you want to talk about what you're up to?
Yeah, so I just love carpentry. I was posting so much of it on my personal Instagram that I was like, oh my God, my friends are probably sick of seeing what I'm building. So I was like, you know what, stuff it. I'll make an Instagram for it all. And it just kind of like led into this journey of me like showing everyone what I'm doing and that women can do the trade and do it just as good as men in some ways, So yeah, I've just been really pulling on that and enjoying it.
I think it's undeniable that women have a better attention to detail that we definitely see within our own businesses and women in the trade as well. So it's awesome that you're doing that for it. So in your 4th year now, so when's the finish date for the apprenticeship?
I've literally just turned 4th year as of like 2 weeks ago maybe. So I've got another full year, 2 more blocks left of TAFE, and then I'm done and it's just all on site from there, which is exciting.
Amazing. Are you starting to get that senior superiority for the younger apprentices and getting a bit more duty of responsibility?
I definitely am getting more responsibility, but I'm actually like the only one that works for my dad. So it's just me and him. And then we have a couple other guys that come in, but they're a bit older and one of them's a fully qualified. So I'm still kind of in like the bottom role in a sense, but I'm definitely getting a lot more leniency and responsibility to do stuff by myself, which I'm really loving.
No, that's amazing.
Clea, I think there's probably a lot of people listening that, because obviously a female carpenter it's becoming more of a thing nowadays, but go back maybe 10 years ago, it was very, very rare, I'm sure. There's probably a lot of people listening that are wondering, how on earth did you get into this type of career? Like, what was your drive? I think you might have just mentioned you worked with your dad. Maybe that's the driving force, but was there an exact moment that you realised that, you definitely knew that you wanted to be a carpenter and be involved in the building industry?
Yeah, so I obviously working for my dad's a builder and I've seen it my whole life. But I think the moment that I remember, I was in prep and the teacher's like, what are you going to be when you're older? And I was like, I want to be just like my dad, a carpenter. And they're like, no, it's okay. Like, you'll pick something else. And I was like, no, I won't. Like, this is what I'm going to do. So that's like when I knew. And then obviously throughout high school, like doing the woodwork subjects, I was really strong in those. I loved it and just didn't really do too well in school, but loved all of those subjects. So just followed through with that. And then COVID came around and I was in year 12 and I got the opportunity to go to work with dad instead of just sitting at home. So really pushed through doing that for COVID, and then found a love for it, which I already knew that I had, but it just really solidified that that's what I wanted to do.
So that's a really interesting one, actually. So you started your apprenticeship pretty much right in peak COVID times, like
Yeah,
when
literally.
the entire industry flipped on its head. Well, not just the
Yeah.
entire industry, I suppose the entire world flipped on its head. But wow, there was some interesting times in the construction game. So you had to learn probably in a pretty hard way, actually.
Yeah, I'd definitely say it was interesting. I mean, I was still year 12, but I was doing a carpentry based apprenticeship. And my teacher was really good. Like, he was like, okay, well, if you get all your work done in the first like 3 days, you can go on site with your dad for the rest of the week because, like, you live at home with him. It's not like, you're going to contract COVID or something like that. And I
Yeah,
was like,
for sure.
yeah. Um, so that was really cool, but it was very different because it was like there were only certain trades on site, and I was like, this is so weird. Like, I don't even know how to like interact with the other trades or what we're doing for the other trades. It was bizarre.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've probably mentioned on this show before, and I know chatting off air with yourself. Like I'm myself a girl dad with 4 young daughters. I've got a sister-in-law that's an electrician that's worked in the trade for about 15 years. So I'm definitely sitting here hearing your story, talking about your dad and working with your dad, and I think the last 10 years we've seen a massive change in the industry, and there's a lot more women. We just spoke before we press record. You've seen a lot more women and young ladies in the trade schools, working through from TAFEs, doing their apprenticeships, which is amazing. I guess, how is your journey? How have you found the construction industry from your journey, from a welcoming point of view, and slotting into building sites?
Yeah, there's definitely been so many more girls at TAFE, which is awesome. And, we have a different skill set in some ways to the men, which is unique in its own thing. But as for like being welcome on site, like my dad, obviously being my boss, I was always welcomed on site and everyone accepted me. But there have been times where like I've had to stick up for myself and I've had to be like, no, I can do it. I'm okay. Or, really just put my foot down with the fact that I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this for myself. This apprenticeship was a choice. It's not like a chore. But I haven't really had too many experiences on site where I've like struggled or been like, I don't want to be here, which is great. But it's definitely becoming more of a norm having women on site. Like, I think
Mm.
there's maybe like 5 other girls on the 2 jobs that I'm doing. So that's really cool, all in different fields too. So it's exciting to see. And I mean, when I started, Dad had said to me, he's like, "There's not many girls on site. You need to be able to pull your own weight." And I was like, "I'm ready." Like, I know that's what it is. Like, I've seen that from you, so it was exciting.
Well, you kind of just touched on that, because I was just thinking through that conversation there, that was there anything, back 4 or 5 years ago now, when COVID was hitting and you started working with your dad, was there any ground rules that were kind of discussed, or, hey, if you're coming to work with me, Clea, this is what I want you to do? Or you're from a father-daughter relationship, like where did that kick off from, and how did your dad feel when you said, hey, I'm coming to do this full time? This is me.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely super excited and super supportive about it, which was really cool. He did lay down the ground rules. He was like, "You are my daughter, but when you're at work, you have to do what I say. I am your boss." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I get that totally." I think we're both pretty good at setting like a boundary. Like, you hop in the car, you talk about work, but it's no longer work. So we've really like solidified that boundary, I guess, and like figured that out. But then, I mean, me and my dad, like, I get along with him so well. So I've never really had a problem being like, okay, you need to calm down and leave me alone because I'm done. Um, so that's been good. None of those moments, which is awesome. Just boss and apprentice moments, which is fine.
No, that's all. So do you drop the dad name at work too, and it becomes by the name
Yeah.
or boss?
Yeah, I drop dad all the time. I'm just so used to it. And so like some of the other trades will be like, I'll be like, "Oh, dad's just over there." And like, "Dad, dad." I'm like, "Oh no." Sorry.
I think it's good that you pointed out that separation, though, Clea. It's obviously like working so close with a direct family member. I know we've recently employed my wife into the business as well to take on a bit more responsibility, and it's just setting those boundaries early on. While you're at work, work is work, but having that separation that once you get home, like, try and switch off, because it just otherwise it consumes your life. So I think it's great that you pointed that out. Clea, can you maybe just give us a bit of an insight on what type of projects that you're building? Like, what are the style of homes that you're doing? Is it new homes, renovations, bit of everything? What are you up to?
Over the 4 years, we've done a little bit of everything, like from earthworks to the fit off. At the moment, we're working on two houses in Brighton, which are quite high end builds. One of them, I think it's estimated to be like a $20 million build, and then the other one's maybe like
Wow.
5 or 6. So, very high end, very precise, beautiful house. It's not my style, but it definitely has like these really beautiful touches to it. So, yeah, it's quite cool to see that kind of part of the building construction area.
Do you pinch yourself a bit when you're on these high end jobs that this is how you're learning your craft is at the top echelon of some of the greatest homes that you might get to do through your career?
Yeah, totally. And then like sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to touch the wall because I'm scared I'm gonna mark it and get in trouble. Yeah, some of the things that he's put into this house, I'm like, I'm not touching that because I am not even running the risk of like dinting it, scratching it. Like, no. But it is really amazing to see like some of the finishes, the doors that he's getting are just crazy, like beautiful, amazing. They're a like timber slat door, but I definitely don't think I will be installing the hinges on those ones. I think that'll be a dad and Dan job.
Awesome. Claire, let's shift a little bit. I'm interested to know whether you think there's enough being done to promote and encourage women to pick up the tools and change career. Like if there was a young girl out there that's sitting on the fence or sick and tired of doing something else that they maybe not enjoy, any words of encouragement that you'd suggest to someone to have a crack?
Yeah, I totally fully support it. I'm probably one of the biggest advocates for getting into the trade. Like anyone that's spoken to me and they're like, oh, I don't like my job, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why not a trade? Like, just do your research, be an electrician, plumber, like carpenter, do whatever you want. I reckon it's so beneficial. I've learned so much in my 4 years so far. So like, I'd recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, and I think that's across the board, isn't it, Clea? Not just to talk about the women in the trade there. I know talking with some of our trades, whether it's concreters, plumbers, sparkies, there does seem to be a lower take up of trades at the moment. You're probably more connected to that, being a fair bit younger than Lukey and myself. And you're in that apprenticeship phase, so you're at the trade schools and socializing with people at that level doing apprenticeships. And I know that there's a bit of frustration from trades out there now that they're just trying to find the right person that wants to get out there, have a go, have a crack. And I think the take up part of it is something across the board that I'm hearing. It just seems to be not there like it used to be.
Yeah, I definitely think there's this old school style of building. I mean, I know my dad's that old school. He's like, I work at my pace. You need to keep up. I'm not slowing down for you, which totally fair enough. I've learned to work extremely hard because of it. But I think a lot of it is finding the right fit. And I mean, a lot of people from my tape, they're like, oh, well, I'm not traveling half an hour for work. And I'm like, okay, but work's work. Like you've got to travel for work. You've got to like commit to it. You're not going to get along with everyone every day and you need to put like 100% effort into it. So I think that's also part of it. Yeah, it's definitely a difficult time where everyone wants to maybe do less for more.
Yeah.
I need to jump in here for a minute, guys, to thank our sponsors, Backman Builders and Calorie Building. Without the support of these businesses, the Build Insite podcast wouldn't be possible. Take a moment to go and show some support for them so they can continue to support us, bringing you the Build Insite podcast.
It definitely seems like it. We're in that era that hard work's becoming fewer and further between.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. We've got a really good young kid that's just started a school-based apprenticeship that'll be jumping in this week, and he's definitely from a great family. And I just sort of texting his dad back and forth. He was like, how's he going? Like, he's been done a few days now. And I said, nah, everyone loves having you on deck. Like he's working hard, really putting a good foot forward. And his dad said how tired he is. And I said, well, it is like getting in and doing a pre-season for a footy or a sporting season, because it's a different type of work. And yeah, it's interesting. Like, do you think people maybe are a bit put off by that when they get into the big days and, hard slog putting on a nail bag or carrying material around site? Do you think that's harder for people to swallow? The young, or I shouldn't say the younger generation, but just people in general.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can so sympathize with your young guy that's with you because I am like, I'm still getting back into work because I broke my ankle. So, like, that first week when you get back into it is so hard. Like, you just want to die. You just want to, like, fall asleep on the couch and not say anything. But yeah, I think a lot of it is like not wanting to commit yourself to something too far or too much. I mean, I know when I talk to my TAFE friends about my hours, I leave the house at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I usually get home at about like 6:30. If I do a really long day, maybe 7:30. So it's a massive day, and like it's not for everyone, which is so fine. But I understand that that's a part of my work, and like that's what I have to do. So I don't know, it's just a different mentality, and maybe I wasn't brought up with that kind of, "Oh, well, I should get this or that" mentality, which I'm not saying that everyone is, but maybe that's part of it, but it is definitely a bizarre scenario when someone goes, "Oh, I had to drive 40 minutes to work this morning, like, I had to wake up an extra 10 minutes early." I'm like, "Oh, I leave the house at 5 every morning," and they're like, "Oh my god, why would you even do that? Like, the work's good, I'm learning so much, like, I need to be there."
I think even draining, like obviously it's a long day, that can be very draining. But we've got had a good chat with one of our apprentices at the moment. One of his favourite pastimes is going to the gym, and he's quite a big young fella actually. But once he started, like it's physically, just because you're physically strong from going to the gym or something like that, the way that you actually lift and move on a building site is so totally different. I remember after the first
Totally.
week that he started, he was like, "Man, I've never felt this exhausted in my life. Like I go to the gym almost every day, but you do things differently, you move differently,
Mm.
you need to lift things in a different way rather than in a super controlled environment at the gym." He said, "Man, this is actually this is hard work." So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not just about the long days. I think there's, physically it's a totally different game as well.
Yeah, it is, and, like, that's one of the reasons why I love it. Like, I have never been in such a fit, like, shape, um, doing anything. It's not, like, physique fitness, it's more like stamina,
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
practical strength and everything like that, which you can't really get at the gym unless you're doing, like, calisthenics or something like that. So, I love the fact that it keeps me strong, and if anything, I use it as, like, I guess a PB because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, well, I lifted 2 bits of timber yesterday, I'm gonna lift, like, 3 today." So I reckon that's probably one of the reasons that makes me compete with the boys, I guess, because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, you lift 2, I'm gonna lift 3," and then they go, "Oh, okay, now I gotta lift 3, bugger."
No, that's awesome. I think that leads me into Clea as well. Like you discussed before. So your last year of your apprenticeship, you hit the end of the year and you're pretty much qualified. So you know, to date, what are some things you would probably tell your younger self going into an apprenticeship that you've learnt along the way? Things maybe you do different or be aware of.
I actually spoke to dad about this on the way home today when I was reading your email. One of the biggest things that I would have said to myself is, ask the questions, like question it, think about it. It's okay to be wrong. I feel like if you ask a question and your boss says, no, that's not why we're doing it, this is why we're doing it, that's when you're going to learn the most. So, like, have that initiative to say, oh, why are we doing this? Or can I do it this way? Because you'll learn from that and you'll probably remember why you're doing that instead of just going, oh, well, my boss told me to put it there, so I must put it there.
I think plan reading's a big one that a lot of apprentices just don't get to see or do.
Mm,
I know it's something that I actually work quite closely with one of my uncles who was a builder for about a bit over half my apprenticeship at the back end of it, and yeah, even he was a bit more like, oh, it was probably that old mentality that, yeah, I've told you what to do, so you don't maybe need to worry about anything else right now. I'll just give you the next job to do. And I used to ask a lot of questions. I was probably a pain in the ass, but I think I was hell bent on becoming a builder myself. So we've got and Luke does a similar thing with his business with like a QR code filing system on site, and anyone can go up and scan that on site. So we're really trying to encourage the apprentices to just get that drive onto their phone or wherever they want to keep it, and do a bit of study in their own time so that their understanding and what they're actually going to build, just to even see it. If they don't understand all the lines and measurements, the details, at least they can see what they're going to build. I think there'd be a lot of apprentices out there who are rocking up site and they don't have a clue what's about to be built.
Yeah, totally. The plans and like knowing what you're doing is half of it. I probably don't see enough of it, but it's definitely something that you could look at that and get so overwhelmed and be like, no, I can't do it. Like, I need to go home. This is too much for me. I can't do it. Don't understand it. But to like be able to have the time to even just read through it the night before and be like, oh, like I wonder what this means, or maybe I'll ask about this tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure this is what I'm doing, is so important because it's like such critical thinking and you're learning so much, even just in like reading the small little boxes with the tiniest little detail. Like that's where you learn like a lot of it.
Yeah,
Definitely. How you've mentioned a couple of times, Clea, that your dad's a bit old school. What was his thoughts or reaction when you told him you're coming on a podcast? Is he too old school to listen to podcasts, or was he quite open and encouraging?
No, he was actually really excited. I actually didn't know how he was going to react to it, but he was very excited for me. And I think mum and dad are super excited to have a listen and see what it's all about.
Well, we better not say too much
Awesome.
about him then if he's going to be listening. But I'm sure it was all good words.
I don't even reckon my old man knows how or what a podcast is still, and his son's doing one. So if you're listening, Dad, let me know. But I don't think he is.
So Clea, let's sort of where do you see your journey going? So you've got 1 year left to go in your apprenticeship. What have you put much thought into? What the next steps are after that? Maybe a supervisor or pull on the boots to be a builder yourself one day?
Yeah, I definitely love to aim to be a builder. That's something I've wanted to do since I knew I was starting my apprenticeship. I just want to be able to have that skill set to like turn up to a job and be like, yep, I got this. Site supervisor is definitely high up there as well. I definitely think I'd like to look into doing that, even if it's just like doing my own builds and learning through that. Croft, who I worked for, they have mentioned that they might want me on after my 4th year as a supervisor. So I'll just see what happens with that. But definitely something along those lines. I really want to have my own company and be running a team of my own. So that's a big goal as well. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm aiming for.
That's awesome. You got to have the goals and make them big and work towards them, Clea. That's amazing.
Totally.
What are some things you like to do when you're not at work to keep yourself level and unwind from the hard weeks?
I love to go to the gym after work and stuff. That really unwinds me, but also gets me pumped for the next day. The thing that definitely unwinds me the most though is riding my dirt bike. Me and my dad actually both compete in motocross down my way or Victoria kind of area, like Gippsland. So that's like what I do to wind down. I pretty much do that every single weekend.
Is that how you did the ankle?
No, I actually did the ankle at work.
Oh, there you go. Workplace injury.
I know.
No good.
Wouldn't have thought it though.
No, that's all right. But no, staying fit and healthy is, I think, a big part of keeping on your feet, being efficient on site, and good. The best thing for your mental well-being as you get older and deal with more of the hassles. So, that's awesome. But 5 years from now, Clea, I know it's one of those things you've just probably covered up on a bit of stuff, but you're looking back on your apprenticeship at the time. Is there something you wish you learned about? Maybe got shown a little bit further that you could dive into now that puts you on that track to site supervising, running your own building company?
I think I lacked a bit of the encouragement from myself. Like I kind of was like, oh, I'll just sit back and watch. Like even if I had the answer or kind of knew what was going on, like I didn't really push myself to put myself out there. Like I was just not quite self-assured in that way. So I would definitely tell myself to go harder, talk up, really give it a big shot. I think a lot of that probably would have progressed me in my learning even a little bit more. But that's kind of all I can really think of.
And we've got to touch on one more thing, Clea. You may or may not want to jump into this, but you've got the hoodie on if you're listening. So Clea has recently we'll let you talk about it, Clea, but you've becoming a bit of a face of a bigger brand in Victoria.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be partnered up with Bowens, representing them on site through social media and in their stores. So that's really amazing. Something I didn't even, it wasn't even on the back of my mind, like, oh, maybe I'll represent a brand or something. So yeah, really cool experience. It's really opening my eyes up to the world of like social media and what it can bring in for me and my career, but also like how I can get myself out there and progress with work, showing that women can do everything that a man can in a lot of ways. Yeah, not something I ever thought would happen. I actually went to the Bowens Expo last year, and got a free hoodie because I was one of those TAFE students working in the like
Okay.
food court area.
Yep.
Got a hoodie, posted it, and then Bowens reached out to me maybe a month later. Yeah, and just I was like, I remember where I was. I was in the driveway, and I'd just gotten home, and I was like, "Oh my god, no way! Like, there's no way this is real. Like, no, no." So that was really exciting, and I'm very lucky to have the support of them behind me, and critiquing my social media and everything. I'm learning a lot from it.
No, that's amazing.
that's
There
awesome.
some great people involved, and we were at the expo as well. But I think you guys were outside, and every time we had a free moment, it was pouring rain, or we were running off trying to chat with some trades or suppliers and stuff. Just going to touch on, what was it like seeing yourself? Sort of, you've got the displays in stores and stuff here and there with your face on it. How was that walking in the first time? It was a bit of a probably pinch me moment, Clea.
So bizarre. I was like, there's no way. Like, I know I did the photo shoot and I know I was there on that day, but to see it in stores, just like a different kind of feeling. It really set in like that I am actually partnered with Bowens and that I'm their new face of their company and everything that they're doing. So that was real surreal. But yeah, very cool and so awesome to have the support of them behind me.
No, super exciting stuff, Clea. I guess so that people can follow along your journey, let's you want to give your social media a bit of a plug? How can people follow along?
Yeah, so my social media is the little chippy chick. Go have a look. You'll see all the stuff I'm doing at work and maybe outside of work. I don't really post a lot of that. But yeah, best place to find me is on
that's where it's at.
Instagram.
Nah, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Clea. I really appreciate your time coming on and joining us on this cracker of an episode. I know you've probably had a pretty big day at work already. We're recording this late, so thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait to continue to watch your journey over the next few years and see, once you've finished your apprenticeship, where you can take it in the industry and hopefully encourage some more young females coming through the industry to follow in your footsteps. So that is going to do us this week, guys. Thanks for joining another episode of the Build Insite podcast. If you want to follow along more of our journey and what we're up to, we actually have a brand new website launched this year. Go and check that out at www.buildinsite.com.au. Head over to Instagram, build.insight. Also follow along the YouTube channel for some more exciting insights. Thanks again, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the episode, and we'll catch you next time. Let's cue the disclaimer. I need to let you know that myself and the Build Insite team are in no way, shape or form qualified to give you personal or specific business advice. We strongly encourage you seek out the use of professionals for products or when you are making personal or business decisions. Everything discussed during the Build Insite podcast is our own and the guest opinion and personal experience and is of a general nature only. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Catch you on the next one.